There's an old maxim that one should never discuss sex, politics, or religion in polite company. Application of, and occasionally even adherence to this maxim, has rippled into the family dinner table, parties, and bars.
But as anyone who has frequented these establishments can tell you, the three big no's consistently become the focus of the evening.
Especially after a couple of rounds. In point of fact, the saloon has historically acted as a hub for deliberation on these subjects.
And so, in the pursuit of inviting experts, activists, writers, religious leaders, entertainers, and bartenders to discuss one big topic in these categories over a drink, we bring you sex, politics, and religion.
Try to make things work, mandate something, it's all no use, it's all worth nothing. Complete satisfaction to infinite to believe, nothing's ever fucking gonna work for me. Trying to move it, can't keep it on my mind. Another day of nothing, running out of time. I got nothing I can live for and do.
We're here in the beautiful Detroit Foundation Hotel. I'm your host, Jack Dalton. This is the first episode of Sex, Politics, and Religion. So I want to start by thanking everyone involved for getting it off the ground, starting with our indispensable engineer, Gabriel Banis, who is here with us today. Hello, Gabe.
Hello.
Our bartender tonight is a talented young man who I've always found to be somewhat sunny in disposition, if I may say. So I invited him here to ebb some of the depression that might be onset from the topic. Mr. Jordan Glass from Traffic Jam and Snug in cozy Cass Corridor. Jordan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Jack. How are you?
I'm doing well. While he's working on our drinks, I'm going to introduce our panel. I'm going to start with our Trump voter. She is, in my experience, not at all what you'd expect from this typical MAGA crowd. She's a what are we calling it? A JR?
JD.
You were a JD.
Juris Doctor.
And studied philosophy at Oakland. Rachel Thomas, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
On my other side, directly, we've got the show's resident economist and proud Hillary voter. Hi, Ev. How you doing? Evan Eichelberger.
Doing great, Jack.
Good. And then I put down here writer and pundit extraordinaire, which I think is pretty accurate. You're not professional with punditry, but I think you take to it.
Yeah, I'm sublime at the art regardless of if I'm paid to do that.
Jacob Stover, who voted Jill Stein in the general election and Bernie Sanders in the Democratic primary.
Can I just say his shirt is lit as fuck?
Oh, yeah.
Like
shoes too.
And the shoes just straight up gold. Like,
yeah,
come on.
with the I would say probably the exception of myself and Gabe, I think we all really turned out the wardrobes.
I mean, don't throw Gabe under the bus. He got a haircut.
That's true. It's
You're
just
the
me.
only-
It's
you're
You
just
look like you just came down from the Swiss Alps.
The
Jack.
derelict
Like, what are those? Why are you wearing like
I
shin high socks and boots?
These are
in
actually
the middle of summer.
I
in
actually
Detroit?
inherited these socks from my uncle, who had very bad diabetes, so they're diabetic socks, and I just like the look when they are completely rolled up. And I like the feel. It makes me feel alive.
You like a
The more you know.
compression.
So, also while Jordan's working on the drinks, it's June 25th, 2018, and today in the news, the Supreme Court decided in a 5-4 decision that the Texas legislative and congressional maps are not racially gerrymandered.
How?
I don't know. But with the sole exception of House District 90. California Representative Maxine Waters is garnering
I am
criticism
gonna comment,
today from congressional leaders after advocating harassment of Trump cabinet members in public. This after Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders was asked to leave the Virginia restaurant The Red Hen by the owner on Friday for her role in the administration. She is not the first Trump official confronted in public. The Pentagon plans to house migrants and their children at 2 military bases in Texas, along with potentially up to 20,000 unaccompanied minors. And Harley-Davidson announced that due to U.S. and EU tariffs, it would be moving an increasing percentage of its production out of the U.S. So with that, those were the biggest stories of the day. We're going to move on to cocktail introduction and our toast. So I'm gonna throw it over to Jordan Glass. What did you make for us today?
You guys are drinking some Old Forester Old Fashions. I decided to go with Old Fashioned since we're rehashing an old election. I figured an Old Fashioned would be an appropriate drink. Old Fashioned is the first ever old cocktail. They say that because if you're making a drink the old-fashioned way, it should be just with water, sugar, liquor, and pretty much that's about it. Figured it'd be something nice to sip on.
I love old fashions too, so I'm very glad you chose this.
This is great.
I hope I haven't made things too salty with the toast tonight, but I do think that it's something that maybe applies. I think it's something that is kind of nips in the bud any sort of sore loserdom, and also something that we can all maybe agree on given today what's going on. But I think we got to have a MAGA toast. So. Make America great again, guys.
I mean, I guess we're doing that in a different context.
Cheers, Gabe. We're the most across the room, so we're doing eye contact.
Cheers, yeah. Spiritual cheer.
That is delicious, Jordan. Thank you very much. So our topic today, 2016. Ellipsis. The ellipsis is important because that's the ... and it was a hell of a year. It was notorious for just being a rotten year for everybody. We had what must have been like record deaths of beloved public figures of the likes.
That's true.
That
That's
is
crazy.
verifiably true.
Yeah.
That is very.
That was crazy.
I mean, everybody loved somebody in this list. We had the likes of Prince, David Bowie,
Yo,
Gene
rip
Wilder,
Prince,
Fife Dog, Carrie Fisher, and Debbie Reynolds, a mother-daughter duo.
Oh yeah.
Leonard Cohen, and I know he was old, but John motherfucking McLaughlin of the McLaughlin Group, which I loved that show.
Who the fuck was that?
You are into politics. You should know what the McLaughlin Group is. One of the longest running debate shows, and it revolutionized a bunch of people yelling at each other.
Nah, man. Gene Wilder and Prince, man, they had me fucked up when they died that year, man.
Yeah.
It was.
I just have to say McLaughlin because he died to no fanfare at all.
That was a real.
I found
sad part.
out like months later, and like just when it wasn't on, I was like, oh, I guess it's Sunday. Maybe I'll watch the McLaughlin Group. No McLaughlin Group. Okay, so in addition to that, we had an election for president with two of the most unpopular candidates in at least modern political history. And I also had the first of a wave of a very painful breakup due, not wholly, but in part, to my vote for Jill Stein, which I got a lot of shit for from my then girlfriend. And honestly, I thought that the first time I voted for a woman for president, I would get more points for it. But we all lived through 2016, so we know why that was not the case. So. We're going to move on to subtopics, which kind of goes straight into that, and it's about regrets is what we start with. Like, it was a hell of a year, and I seriously do have some regrets, not because of the breakup, but literally just because, like, I think that's my default mode after an election. I remember everybody was celebrating when Obama got elected, and I voted for Obama, but at the time I was just like, I hope he doesn't become something I hate, because I really like the guy. And it kind of did happen. That like I still like him personally, but I don't.
He may have bombed, 8 countries.
Yeah, he may have bombed 8
And then
countries.
got Nobel
I
Peace
honestly
Prize.
have no regrets about
Don't
Obama.
want to be that guy. But I'm gonna start with.
I have no Obama.
Or I didn't want him
regrets.
to be that guy. But I'm gonna start with Rachel on this question. Trump is now a decent amount more popular. I think he's like 43 total, 80 something with Republicans. And he's had talks with North Korea, but he's also used immigrant families as political bargaining chip, and has shown himself to be somewhat of a pathological liar, potential Russian colluder, and has at points refused to disavow actual Nazis who invoke his name. So, any regrets on your vote?
No, I have no regrets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to address
Which
any
is
of-
not surprising.
Yeah, no. And I will address some of those points. I think a lot of those points are kind of like talking points that that punditry likes to bring up. I think it's interesting, especially with the immigration issue, that there was the same policy, if not worse, under the previous president and the president before that. It's not a partisan issue, where they were all doing these things. And so, unfortunately, in my opinion, it's a case of, selective outrage in a way. But here's the thing. I'm glad that people brought attention to this because it's a big issue. And a lot of people brought attention to it back in 2014 when there were reports of abuses, which a lawsuit was filed. That was today in the news for children that had bags put over their heads and were beaten while tied to chairs under the last administration. And so, unfortunately, and it's not their fault. It was contracted by the government to private actors who were doing these things and also forcibly drugging the children. And so, I do think
Can I
it's.
get a fact check on any of that? Because I would.
Okay,
I,
so
I would really actually like to fact check that because while there were some abuses by the last administration before Trump, they were not. It is not. You cannot compare what's happening now to what they did then because they
Okay.
were working with.
Gabe, we
something.
got a fact check working on that. Okay, so while we're working on that, I'm going to go to Jacob. I'm not just picking on Rachel here. Although usually the impact of third-party voting gets overstated, this year in Michigan, Trump won by such a narrow margin that third-party votes actually could have tipped it in Hillary's favor. And many now believe that Jill Stein could have been a Russian pawn. So any regrets on your front?
No. In fact, I've been talked to you specifically about the point. Michigan is the one state in the country where a Jill Stein voter could be said to have stolen the Hillary victory away because the margins were so close. And I'm honestly proud of that. I like that I may have cost her a state with my vote. I just think, if she's not going to even put the effort into campaigning here, much less have a platform that I have any resonance with, then I'm kind of glad that I helped, weaken that grasp even further.
Right.
Obviously, I'm not necessarily glad that I helped Trump. I'm not saying that I align more closely with his, platform than I did with Hillary's, but I definitely feel like 2016 was kind of the point of no return for me. I had been happy to vote Democratic Party line simply to oppose a Republican candidate in the previous elections. I worked on the Obama campaign as an organizing fellow for the state of Indiana, even though I didn't love him. This last election, I think I will never go back to lesser evil voting. You know what I mean? I'll never probably even vote for the Democratic candidate for president ever again because I feel betrayed by the party.
And I will say that this election definitely put the lesser of two evils maxim to the test, if anyone did.
The most.
But that's a pretty good segue into Evan's vote. Hillary Clinton didn't campaign much in the Rust Belt and left a lot of grassroots campaigning in general to proxies. She was shown to have taken over the DNC to secure the nomination, disenfranchised Bernie Sanders, and even was given debate questions from CNN correspondent Donna Brazile. Any regrets from you?
I mean, what I can say is that I was regretful of the Democratic Party in general. They did not come out and really showcase the fact that our values as Americans were on the line. I mean, you can even see it today. Trump is destroying institutions left and right. And maybe it might have happened with Hillary, maybe not. But I think that, her as someone who's worked in the establishment, who understands government, understands the theory of government at its highest level, it's really disappointing that we elected someone who does not know and does not care about, these institutions like journalism, these institutions like our courts, the institution of legislation. He doesn't respect those enough to really let those work and play themselves out. And you can see that in the way that he handles media, and you can see that.
And we'll get onto that, but I think we've got this fact check all together, right? What say you, Gabe?
So there's this Business Insider article that dates back to many years. It's a class action lawsuit concerning the government's treatment of unaccompanied migrant children and its care, filed in April, shortly after the Trump administration implemented its zero-tolerance immigration policy for illegal arrivals. However, like I said,
This was under Obama.
these allegations go back many years, well into the Obama administration.
Can I point out that under Obama, the state of Texas went through a lengthy legal battle to recategorize migrant children housing facilities as child care centers so that they could get past the hourly restrictions for how long a child could stay there. And it also allowed them to do more like corporeal punishment, things like that.
Yeah. So
Um,
this is something I generally want to avoid here, is that when we actually examine the faults of a particular candidate, I don't want to just bounce it off to the other candidate, because there was a lot of that in 2016,
yeah.
obviously, and honestly, there's enough blame and corruption and violations to go around. Hillary had the vast majority of 714 super delegates before Bernie was even started running. So particularly, Evan, should super delegates exist, and like, do you advocate how they were used in this?
That's complicated. No one really had paid attention to the importance of super delegates until this election.
But don't you? I mean, was it rigged as a result? Don't you
No,
think
it's-
that they maybe have been rigging it for
I
years?
would never. I would never say that it's rigged. I would say that it is as good as we've made it. We have the power to change our electoral system as much as we want to, because most people do not pay attention and most people do not vote.
Okay, I want to open this one up to Jacob as well, because he supported Bernie early on. Do you think that primary races were fixed, and do you think that the superdelegates played a part in that?
Yes. I don't want to make this like a big fact-checking thing, but you can look up California, New Hampshire, and New York had absolutely disgusting, horrible primaries. Literally millions of votes between the three states of first-time voters, new voters, independent voters, people who would vote Democrat but didn't select themselves as Democrat, flat party line before the primaries, that were just either unable to vote or had their votes stricken.
But that's not something fixed. That's infrastructure problems.
Sure, it is. I will say
And
in
so
New
you
Hampshire,
have to separate that.
Do you think they did a good job of reaching out to independents? And do you think that those close
I mean,
primaries?
There's a difference. If we're talking about voting infrastructure in general, then yes, there is a problem. If we're talking about outreach, the Democrats did a horrible job in outreach. And I will take that every single day of the week, because we did a really bad job of that. But if we're talking about just voting, the process of voting in general, there are infrastructure problems that we need to address.
yeah.
And that's something that on either side of the line we should be agreeing on, is that everyone should be able to vote as easily as possible. And that's it.
Okay,
Sure,
so
but
I want to get through as many of these as possible. Let's incorporate Bernie now. I kind of want to get everybody's impression of what the Bernie phenomenon was. Obviously, for an independent who was not taking PAC money, like, he raised a hell of a lot of money and came closer than they thought he would. So what was the Bernie phenomenon? I actually want to start with Rachel here, and then we'll move around.
Yeah, I think the Bernie phenomenon was a response to business as usual. I think that Bernie came out with a lot of good ideas that a lot of people had been thinking for a long time, and such as ending NAFTA and GATT, the repeal of Glass-Steagall, which allowed the banks to basically gamble people's personal bank accounts on the stock market. There was a reason that was in place to begin with. That was repealed under the Clinton administration. And that was primarily responsible for the 2008 foreclosure crisis. And so certain practices like that, I mean, people see the jobs going away. They see the economy tanking. They basically see politicians kowtowing, especially during the Obama administration. I mean, when Lord Blankfein, strode into Congress and literally did not have his feet held to the fire. And then the bailout of $1 trillion to big mega banks. I voted for Barack Obama, and I saw that and immediately thought, wow, that looks wrong. And I think that Bernie Sanders, he addressed all those issues and said, no, I'm not going to be beholden to the big banks and the moneyed interests and the stock markets and et cetera. I'm here, I'm your guy, and I'm going to work for you, the American people. And I think people wanted to. That was a message that resonated with people who were tired of the same old corruption.
Can I ask you who you voted for in the primary?
I didn't.
You didn't vote for the primary?
Oh yeah, I did. Sure, I voted for Trump because actually he had the same message as Bernie Sanders, in my opinion, almost exactly equivalent. He talked about repeal of NAFTA, GATT. And that actually goes back to.
What was your problem with NAFTA?
Actually, I want to get. Do you think that the Bernie message was identical to the Trump message, like she says, or do you think it's
not identical, no, and I don't think she thinks they were
I
identical.
mean, not like I
would
I
say
didn't mean
minus
to,
socialism.
I
Yeah.
didn't mean to
But
mischaracterize.
no, they both caught that zeitgeist of populism and really packaged it for an American audience very well. I would say Bernie
America's
Sanders.
already socialist, by the way.
Bernie Sanders gave a face or a cult of personality to new socialism in America that I don't think a younger generation had a connection to until he started bringing those talking points up, and the kind of grassroots organizations that popped up around him formed these coteries of thought. I think that Bernie Sanders was very much like an internet president, following kind of a similar vein of Obama's popularity. In that a lot of people were highly mobilized, maybe not physically feet on the ground canvassing, but being internet warriors, spreading the word, writing op-eds, that kind of thing. I do think that in the primaries, I favored Trump to Hillary. Like, if you were to ask me which one I wanted to be the president, I would have said Trump. So I do think that speaks to the fact that he had to have had at least some talking points that read to me as worth the gamble against establishment Democrat.
Which
and that's
I could see the brick through the window argument, but he scared the shit out of me,
Yeah.
like some of the stuff he was saying during the primary.
I'm not really sure how it makes sense that for some reason Trump comes in and is just this savior, because mind you, again, he knows nothing about running a government at all. He knows nothing about economics, because we can just say it here, his businesses have failed. He has not had the ability to pay a lot of the people that has worked for him, multiple class action lawsuits against him. Like, I'm just not understanding how a failed billionaire, a failed millionaire, because he wasn't even a billionaire, how a failed businessman can go say a bunch of just outlandish things about the economy, about people in general, and then somehow become how does that translate to people as this guy should be our president?
What are those specific examples of outlandish things that he stated?
Well, and we will get to some of that. Actually, it's coming up a little later, but I do want to knock some of these out. Do you think that there should have been more control by party leaders in the Republican primary process?
Well, you have to have context to this. Like, the Republican Party was gone a long time ago. When the Tea Party sprang up, it was over after that. I mean, there were people, establishment Republicans, who left office who said there is a wave of people coming that do not understand government, who don't care and will just vote based off of the populist message that is coming out. And that's what happened.
You think that was what happened with Bernie too?
In Bernie, it's like the left side of populism. It's like, okay, yes, I would love free school and I would love free healthcare, but I would like to be realistic as how that is implemented over the long term, and I would like to be reassured that we are paying for it in a way that doesn't destroy our economy.
Jordan, you're nodding your head. You got do you have something to comment on that?
Not necessarily. I mean, I'm with him.
You're with him though?
Yeah. I'm both sides. I'm with him.
You weren't trying to have the populism at the time?
If you get someone who promises the world, I just rarely believe them. Rarely. On either side too.
No, that's fair enough.
I think it was all ridiculous to begin with. I don't think he could deliver on even a quarter of the things that he said.
Let me ask this though to everybody: do you guys think? Because even though he was terrifying me, I kind of thought this at the time, that Trump was maybe the best Republican option in the primary.
Absolutely not.
I think so. I think absolutely.
Yes.
I mean,
can you imagine Ted
Rachel,
Cruz?
you voted for him.
He was better than all of the Republican challengers.
But we had Ted. I mean, think about it. We had Ted Cruz.
Marco
we had John
Rubio.
Kasich. If I'm gonna do this right now, we had John Kasich.
You're gonna do this right now. Make the case for
like
John
Kasich. He ran a state. John Kasich ran a whole state.
Okay, Jacob, make the argument against John Kasich.
I mean,
or why Trump's better? Why is Trump better?
Rather than attack his policy, I don't think that we need to go that route. Have you seen the man eat pizza? Like, have you seen him eat pizza? I'm just.
If we're
It's a
going
real
off
question.
If we're going off aesthetic, like I can understand why people enjoy Trump. Like whatever, yeah, he says whatever the fuck he wants to. That's great. But like when it comes to the important stuff, because this affects our daily lives, he is a failure as a president, and he is a failure as someone who runs a country, and that's as simple as that.
I would just
But
say.
What about Kasich's policies?
Kasich, like, yeah.
Rachel, did you look seriously into Kasich, and what did you think of him?
I thought Kasich was a nice man. He said nice things. He was very middle of the road. He was a very peaceful guy. I have absolutely nothing against Kasich. Do I think that he could take on the globalists and big bankers that have completely infiltrated and corrupted the government? Absolutely not. I saw him as basically a pushover, and because he's a nice guy. You know what? Trump's kind of a jerk, and that's what makes him. He's a fighter, and that's what makes him, in my opinion, a good candidate to be a politician, because he'll get down and dirty to get the job done. And Kasich, to me, he seemed like he was ready for retirement.
But
Honestly.
if he doesn't know how to do the job, what's the point?
Okay, well,
Who says he doesn't know how to do the job? I don't understand. You're making an assertion without a basis.
I mean, because he's never been in government. He's never run a successful business
That
at all.
brings us really.
Fact
I think that's
check.
kind of,
Okay,
I mean,
so-
not just his net worth. Just can we just go to all of the businesses he's run into the ground,
Well, I think.
and the amount of times he's gone into bankruptcy? Can we go for that?
I don't
as well?
think anyone's gonna argue that he didn't have failed businesses, but I would say like if he is able to do the job of president is really up to what you define the job of president as, and I think it is very much a figurehead that riles up the masses and gets people behind a cause,
I can
and
agree with that.
meets people that are ambassadors, and has big explosive events that create a media cycle. That's what being a president is.
The thing that I think did bring back his net worth from near figurehead extinction essentially was The Apprentice as well, which I think is kind of ties into our exact next point, is what is the Trump phenomenon? And I think it's a reality show phenomenon, and he had a lot of media and free coverage.
Ooh, can I go first on
Is
this
it the
one?
sort of thing but is it the sort of thing that no publicity is bad publicity? I think he's almost proven that point.
I would like to go first on this one.
Yeah, go on.
White people got scared because there was a black president.
You literally think it's only that?
No. I don't think it's only that, but I think that if you're looking at now, like 2018,
I don't disagree.
No, I'm
by the
just
way.
saying. No, you're looking at now 2018, and you're looking at all of this white supremacy. You're looking at all of these people coming out the wet work, just saying like, yeah, we're tired of all of this shit that you guys are doing. It's like that's a phenomenon based off of when Obama was president. When Obama was president, everyone came out the wet work to say, oh my God, there's a black fucking terrorist running the nation, and you should be scared as a white person because they're taking over. Honestly, the black people, the people of color, all of those people are taking over, and you should be scared. And that is what I got. That is the message that I felt was resonated through the Republican Party in general.
Honestly, I agree with you in this sense, is that I kept on thinking that like a lot of the criticism of Obama was very personal.
Yes.
It was domestic, and
They called Michelle Obama his baby mama, and they disrespected her a bunch of times,
Yeah.
even though she's a twice Ivy League graduate.
which honestly, it's just Obama. I think if you're going, he's probably
Well spoken.
He's very well spoken, but he's
Better than
honestly
Trump.
he's honestly like one of the most corporate globalist. Like
I disagree.
No,
very,
I'm
very neoliberal.
no, because I'm saying like the ways in which he was an oppressor was like probably the most, like the ways that Republicans would like the most, and he got no pushback from a lot of foreign policies. He did get some from some. He got so much from domestic policy, and they attacked him personally. Which, as much as I dislike a lot of Obama's policies, I think if you dislike the man personally, it's probably because of racism.
I
Because
would
he's
like
like
to
a
jump to
delightful
some other-
fellow. He's a delightful
I would
fellow.
like to jump to
Wouldn't you
someone
agree,
else
Jordan?
on this one, because
Yeah.
I think just as an African American, just because of what I've experienced, I am going to be biased, and I would like not to be biased, but I mean, from my experience, like that's what it was. But I mean, I don't want to like.
I'd like to speak to this.
Yes, please.
Go for it.
I'm quite frankly, I'm sick and tired of the talking point that all Republicans are racist. Believe it or not, when I went to vote in the city of Detroit, okay, and I did, because that's where I live, 50% of the people in that precinct were wearing red, which means they're voting for Donald Trump. And the reason that people voted for him is because they want jobs. And those
Which they aren't getting.
people were voting Republican. No, I'm sorry. African American unemployment is the lowest it's been in the history.
Which is not based off anything that Trump has done. If you look at his economic policy,
You can
in
say
general.
that all day long, but he lifted regulations, and that's why he
hasn't done anything
He
to-
lowered
to-
the corporate tax rate to 15% or 20%,
which again has not
from
done anything
35%.
from
Are you kidding me?
we
free to
can,
fact
we
check
can
that.
fact check that because
you're the
I can say
economist, and you're
what-
saying that lower taxes does not bring corporations.
Well, I mean
in.
that. See, what you're
What do we-
talking
what-
about is a specific economic theory about lowering taxes.
Real quick, Evan, what are we fact checking?
We're gonna fact check the fact that any Trump's current policies have.
That's not a fact checkable thing.
Okay.
It needs to be an objective.
lowest
fact check.
unemployment for African
Lowest
Americans
unemployment
in
is
are
history.
in
low
your favor.
unemployment for people of color because of his policies.
No, you
that's
can't.
what
But you
I'd
can't
like to-
fact check that, Evan.
I
It's
think-
it's like
Like,
you
I'm
gotta
here
you
to
gotta.
say that
But
it's a
because that's
correlation,
not
but-
true. There is because that's not true.
It's too large a question.
Obama's
you know?
policies before Trump are the reason why the
we were
economy is
stuck
currently
at
growing.
3% GDP for 8 years under Barack Obama.
And it didn't magically change under Trump.
Yes,
Nothing
it did.
magically
We're at
changed under
I
Trump.
believe
Okay,
we're
so
at
let me ask you this:
5%?
Why did he get more minority votes than Mitt Romney?
I think because minority votes were not riled up as much as Trump votes were. I mean, if you're in Detroit, Detroit is Democratic stronghold. There is no way that it's going to flip to a Republican side, like a Republican majority
It is that
ever.
people are tired of being on welfare. And I think the other issue I want to go to is about the personal attacks as well. Barack Obama is not the only president in history ever personally attacked. Look at George W. Bush. How many people personally attacked that man for the way that he spoke? I mean, his intelligence was attacked on like a daily basis.
But
I
to be
know-
fair, he did speak very badly.
I'm sure,
Well,
but he
I mean,
was
even
personally
Nixon.
attacked.
I mean, we've had a lot of pretty
Well,
hated
sure.
presidents.
Yeah, sure, but I'm saying those people deserved it personally.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
I mean, and Barack Obama was extremely eloquent.
Well,
He had
But, I mean,
horrible policies.
had horrible policies, so
But-
he deserved bad things to be said about him as well.
but
I'm
not
just saying-
personal, not personal ones.
But he
That's
didn't
what I'm
have
saying.
all bad policies, and also people didn't deify Obama. Like
I kind of disagree with that, having worked on his campaign.
I mean, I worked on his campaign as well, and I don't think people deified him as much as Trump, because Trump can say whatever he wants. He could go out and say whatever he wants, and Trump voters will still constantly vote for him. And that's the problem that I have with Trump voters in general.
Okay, this actually brings us to the next point pretty well. It's sexism in 2016. It seemed like there was a lot that was just put up with, and Trump is kind of at ground zero of that. I mean, there are stories of him calling, a lawyer mother disgusting for breastfeeding in public. He regularly makes public statements rating women, calling women fat, ugly, flat-chested, etc. So I guess that question goes to Rachel because, I mean, as a woman, what do you think of those comments?
You're not going to like my answer.
That's fine.
Personally, I don't care. You know what? He berates the character of a man. He berates the character of a woman. I mean, to
But
me,
don't
it's
you-
equal. It's equal opportunity hatred. And honestly,
Sure.
I don't really care. What I thought was
He's
sexist. though-
degrading to people.
Can
but
I
go
please
on.
say what I thought was sexist
Yeah.
was Hillary Clinton, who thought that I should go out and vote for her because of her anatomy. Because I'm a woman, I should vote for a woman. I mean, how ignorant do you take me to be? To be quite honest, I don't vote for people because of their genitalia. I vote for people because of their policies. And her foreign policy was absolutely disastrous. And her husband's policy before her was an
least she had a
absolute
foreign
disaster.
policy.
I'm sorry, dude. We got peace with North Korea.
Wait,
She
I-
started 8 foreign wars.
First of
honey.
all, it's
Do you know how
not
many
peace with
people-
North Korea.
You know how many people she? No,
There
who's-
is no peace. There is nothing signed.
It's
Let's
not
just-
a
let's
laughing
just fact
matter.
check that.
People died because of her, and I don't think that it's right. It's not funny. It's not things. That
Are we talking
should
about the
joke
Benghazi thing that she got
I'm talking about Syria. I'm talking about
Libya.
Yemen. I'm talking about Libya.
Well, that's just the administration in general. You can't
we
put the deaths on her.
came-
She was the Secretary of
specifically.
State during
She was
these.
bragging about Gaddafi's
Yeah,
death.
Gaddafi's death was
I mean,
really brutal.
Hey,
but
Secretary
dude
of
was a
State
motherfucking
is
dictator. So
directly in charge.
let's
He
just
was.
stop that shit right now. Dude was a
a
dictator.
stockpile
He
of gold.
deserved to
that
die.
we
do-
put in place.
yeah,
Yes.
do you guys think there's any merit to the conspiracy theory that he was trying to create a pan-African
Pan-African bank?
currency? He was
I
trying
think-
to create a currency, according
Hey,
to you.
He had enough gold to do it.
I mean,
He
and
probably could have done it too.
anyone who would challenge the Western banking cabal would be a threat. So
I mean,
it
yeah,
gives a good reason for it.
I just like the theory. It's one of those fun ones.
I would have
think.
actually liked, as an economist, I would like to see how a Pan-African currency worked out, and also it would be really nice that to see Africa emerge as this continent of smaller emerging economies that are actually doing kind of well.
On this point, do you guys think, we've never really see Gaddafi and Black Panther in the same place at the same time? Do you guys think
Wow.
maybe?
I love that movie. Disrespect. Disrespect, Jack.
What kind of argument are you trying to make here?
Sounds like conspiracy theory.
That was quick. That's maybe the line of the cast.
What I'll say about just I don't know. I think that there are a lot of talking points that sometimes we have to decode, but there has to be some sort of factual base where we can say I accept the fact that Hillary was not a candidate that I was proud of. Or that I could have even seen myself being happy with. But I think that if you look at the difference between her and the difference between Trump did not have a plan at all. He still does not have a plan.
Okay,
He
but
does
we're
not
still
have-
we're not even talking
Yeah.
about a plan. We're still talking about
Actually,
his racist
on
Well, I mean,
sexism.
His sexist
even still sexism. Like he said that shit. That's wrong.
Well, this is what I really want to pin Rachel down on, because don't you think that the leader of the free world has to be an example for kids, and he makes awful statements about everyone. Fair enough, but don't you want somebody to act with a little bit more decorum?
No.
Okay, all right, let's
One
move on.
thing-
That's good.
Well, I would say sexism. I would say that there is an element of truth to the angle that there was an expected vote for Hillary. If you were female, you were expected to vote for Hillary. If you were gay, you were expected to vote for Hillary. I think she took for granted a lot of demographic, algorithmic testing, and I think that's a different side of sexism. I also think that
But
there
do-
was.
But do you guys think that she was doomed from the beginning at all for being
Hillary?
a woman? Do you think that there was a sexist backlash?
I think that any candidate in America that would run as not as a male for president is going to face an uphill battle right now. But I would say if we look at the world at large, we've got plenty of major world powers with a female president, a female prime minister, many female legislators that have had power for years. So I don't think that there's an inbound gender-based challenge there. I think that's an American culture thing.
I agree. I think it's about qualification. I'm sorry. If there were a female presidential candidate to come along who was equally as qualified, who had the same policy talking points, then I would vote for them. I personally have absolutely no opinion about what sex a person is, what race a person is, what affiliation a person has. If they're talking about the free market, low taxes, just, pro-business, pro-fair trade,
Did you like Carly
all these other
Fiorina?
things. No, I didn't really listen to her, to be quite honest, because, again, she seemed very establishment to me. She did not run a grassroots campaign. And so I didn't care for her. As far as I know, she was like the CEO of HP or something, and whatever she was CEO of, she ran into the ground. And so that is really, to me, an indication of how a person is going to perform as head of state, and therefore I could not support that.
Can I actually ask a question both to Rachel and to Evan? Rachel, you said, and I don't blame you at all for immediately dismissing Carly Fiorina. I did the same. I just don't think that she seemed like an interesting or unique candidate whatsoever. But you said that one reason for dismissing her is seeing that she had run a business into the ground. Do you correlate Trump's bad business history as a negative mark for him, or do you think because he was, kind of going so anti-establishment that wasn't playing into his
What
qualities?
bad business history are you referring to?
To be honest, I
Trump
don't-
University is a good example.
I would say Trump University is probably the best example.
And his casino and his casinos in what's that? Atlantic City.
He's
exactly.
had multiple class action suits and restructuring as well.
I'd like to say, just because someone files a lawsuit doesn't mean that there's any merit to it, first of all. Second of all,
That's
just
fair.
because someone restructures or has bankruptcy, those are natural things that happen in the course of business. I mean, this man has a worldwide enterprise across the globe. He has hotels in Dubai, China, all across the United States. They're grossing in the profitable margin. He literally funded his own campaign. He didn't take a single dollar from bankers or special interests. He had a PAC, but he hardly even he didn't
Well,
even
that's a
need
special
that.
interest.
He put his
so-
own, of the people. I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me. And this was one of the things that drew me to him. Of course, as an anti-establishment person myself, I wouldn't take any BS. I'm not obsessed with the cult of personality. What I'm concerned with is who is this person beholden to, and he is taking his own finances, his own money. In the White House, he doesn't take a salary. Okay, he's the first president to ever do that. He makes $1 a year.
Can we also
Why
fact
is
check
that? Why
yeah,
is that?
yeah. Let's do.
I have
Let's
read
fact check
that.
that
Do
because
fact check.
I feel like that's not true.
What's up, Gabe?
And then
I already looked up his celebrity net worth. He makes $60 million a year. I don't know what his presidential salary is, but I think the
no,
president
just
makes
look
about
up if
$200,000 a year.
just look
Also-
up if Trump takes a salary.
I remember
Can we
him.
also look up how much he actually licenses his name and how many
but
hotels
honestly,
he actually owns?
I-
because that's
I'm-
important as well.
But generally, I am kind of bored with Trump's finances. I don't think it's the
it's
relevant.
not a great.
I
topic.
don't think it's the relevant
He's
He's
problem
a
one
with
successful
question.
businessman and otherwise.
Successful
well,
is
and
not
honest-
the word I would
well,
use.
and let's say, for instance,
Okay.
the fascination with his tax returns. We've talked about how I don't like
I
the
don't
income
give a
tax or the
fuck about his
IRS.
tax
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I
the
don't give a
dude
fuck.
can't run a country. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, but
That's
let's.
fine. But-
I don't even care about him being able to run a country. This is something that I'm more interested in. Let's just go through the actual comments he's made that could be perceived as racist or fascistic. The birth certificate. Only black president. Only person that he's ever honed in on having a birth certificate is Barack Obama. Haitian immigrants all have AIDS. Nigerians won't go back to their huts once they are in America. He called Hispanics Miss America Miss Housekeeping. Mexicans are murderers and rapists that are coming.
Animals.
And yeah, he called
Out of context, he was talking about MS-13.
well, he was.
Actually, he wasn't just talking about
No, he really
MS-13.
was.
That
He
was
was
in
talking
his-
about MS-13,
I mean-
but can we say that there is something like crypto-fascism, crypto-racism? You can make a synecdoche kind of an
Well, I mean,
argument.
but
People
let's-
who like
let's
to
just-
hack people up with machetes.
He is just a reflection of his base. This is what his base likes to hear, and he is just a personality. He doesn't really know what's going
But
on.
the Muslim ban had exceptions for Christians.
but that's what I'm saying is that he doesn't really know what's
the bad,
going on.
Bad people on both sides in Charlottesville. Some of who march with Nazis are fine people. We have to go after their families. That's fascistic as far as I'm
and it
concerned.
is fascistic, but also he is just responding as any celebrity would to anything. He doesn't really understand.
This is
he
all a
doesn't have.
manipulation of context.
Well, we got
Well,
torture
he doesn't
and
have any
shithole
context.
countries.
He
That's
doesn't
the end
understand
of my,
context.
That's the end of my list. What do you have to say about it, Rachel?
Where do I begin? I mean,
Why is it okay to demean people like this?
well, okay, the whole animals thing, right? It's completely taken out of context. He was talking about MS-13. He was talking about a gang that literally kills people. Now, the Muslim ban, it's not a Muslim ban. The number one most populous country in the world of Muslims is not on that list. There are countries.
Saudi Arabia.
No,
Or-
it's
no,
not
well,
Saudi,
Saudi
Arabia.
Arabia
was
What
on
is it?
there.
It's
No,
not,
no, it wasn't.
Isn't
Because they were an
isn't
ally.
It's like the
No,
Philippines
because they
or
were
something.
his.
Fact
They
check.
they were bankrolling him basically.
Well, they're bankrolling us. Let's
They
be
were
fair.
bankrolling
That's
Hillary
been-
Clinton.
That's
I'm
been
sorry.
done.
We're bankrolling them.
Well,
No, there
okay,
was
go
a
on.
regime change, and that's why after he got into power. But the fact of the matter is, and now look, women can drive in Saudi Arabia now. Okay, that hasn't happened. No,
That's
seriously.
not because of him. Though.
Yeah, that's no reason of
Okay.
Trump's.
All
All right, but,
Trump
but,
did
but
not
go on.
Okay.
Well, why is it okay to like consistently use?
But the thing is,
such
you guys are
degrading
using
terms?
these like hot button issues like Muslim ban. It's not a Muslim ban. It's a ban of countries that literally cannot vet people coming into this country who have known terrorists in that country.
That's not true.
Okay, no, honestly, we have a nightclub shooting. The worst shooting in history.
The guy was born in America.
A gay nightclub. No, literally, but seriously, to a father who was from Afghanistan, who was a known terrorist, who was in this country, and rather
The
than
guy
being
was
deported,
born in America. It does not
he was
count
also
as
at a
terrorism.
Hillary Clinton rally. Okay,
I mean,
so,
the
and
Muslim
now
ban
that's
would
something-
not have prevented that. Let's
that
be
doesn't
fair.
make it anything. He was born in this country,
The fact of the matter, okay, he was born in this country to
so
a
he
man,
is an American.
right? But there were people from a country.
By the way, do you
that
have to
terrorists
sound-
And
come
also,
from.
why won't you use this same criteria or this same rubric for every white guy who's shot up a school, or like even Dylan Roof who shot up a church? I mean, why isn't
Because we
isn't
can't
this-
ban them. They're
There's
already
No,
here.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
It's a different
this is
rubric.
You're no
all
longer
around
allowed
us.
to name your
the
child
same thing that
Dylan.
Republicans
They're
always
all
do.
around
Is that
you,
they'll
Evans.
take one rubric and they'll apply it to one person, the one type of people, but they will not
How
apply
can
it to
they?
themselves.
How can they apply the same rule to people who are here domestically? Right.
Well, no, he
That's
was
a
born
different
here. He was an
issue.
American.
right. The guy
So how do
who
you
shot
not
up the
apply
place.
that same rubric to a Dylan Roof who says
The
every
fact of
day?
the matter is, let's look at the San Bernardino shooting. Let's look at a bunch of other shootings that have happened. The fact is, the guy's trying to prevent murders from happening on
no,
domestic
he's not.
soil.
All right, let's
He
narrow
doesn't-
it. Let's
no,
narrow
he's
it.
just trying to be a
he
big
doesn't
bigot.
understand.
I think that's so
guys,
silly.
let's just narrow it down. Were you completely happy with how he dealt with the Charlottesville thing?
Charlottesville. I think that was an interesting thing as well, because what had happened there was
He didn't condemn them.
people were tearing down statues. And then that was the thing that the people came out and said, we don't want you tearing down our history. and our
you-
They
statues."
also said Jews will not replace us. So it's like,
I never heard Jews will not replace
well,
us.
okay, so
Let me
they
get
were.
a drink.
Look
Did you
at,
hear it?
Jordan,
Yes,
Jordan,
I
you
heard.
might
I
have
heard
to top me
people.
off after
I've
this
heard
one.
people carrying tiki torches,
Right.
yelling,
Top me
"Jews
off.
will not replace us." Carrying swastikas, people were marching
Right.
with them, and he said that some of the people who were marched with them were fine people, and there were bad people on both
There
sides.
may have been fine people there. I don't know.
How can
I
you
Do you
wasn't
believe
there.
that someone
How
can
can
be
you
both
justify
a
that?
fine person and have Nazi ideology?
No, I don't believe in Nazis. I'm a quarter Jewish. I don't
No,
think
no,
about
not you
But
Nazis.
he also
specifically.
pretended not to know who David Duke was, and it was clear that he did. He had referred to David Duke in earlier interviews.
Maybe because he doesn't want to affiliate himself with a white supremacist.
He was asked to he was asked.
He's
they were
done a
the
very
interview-
bad
anyone
job
does.
at that.
Just a second.
Yes.
The interviewer at the
and
time.
he did disavow. Let me
No,
tell
no.
you, he disavowed about 15 times after the fact.
Yes, but at that
And
time,
so-
the interviewer was asking him to disavow, and he said he didn't know who the
Jack,
guy was.
Well,
Let
maybe
me-
he didn't know who he was. I mean, maybe he's not into white supremacist culture. How does he know who the hell?
Because he's
David
referred to
Duke
him in
is?
earlier interviews.
Let me take
Yeah.
let me take the focus off of her for a second, because actually I am not disappointed in her as a voter in general. She sticks to her values. She sticks to her beliefs. I respect
I
that.
wouldn't have. That's why I wanted her here.
I am more so disappointed in centrists like you who.
I'm a centrist?
I mean, I would consider
Please
you a
do
centrist.
not call me a
I would
centrist.
consider you a moderate.
Please
in a
do not
second.
call me a moderate. I'm
Okay.
so far to the left.
I would say that you are more moderately
my
left
God.
than I am. And,
How?
and so
On what standard?
on like every
You're
standard-
literally
Okay.
saying like
Okay,
I
so
voted for.
I'm gonna.
All I'm gonna say-
I'm gonna skip the next topic about how brilliant Trump may have been. We'll go back to it in a second, but let me ask you this: would Bernie have won?
Yes.
Absolutely not.
By a landslide.
Because you
Not
guys
in a
are.
million years.
It's
there.
possible.
Not in a million years.
Correct the record out.
I think
Take the
Bernie
voting fraud
versus
out.
Trump. Bernie doesn't
Bernie versus
respond.
Trump still wins.
Literally look at the
Bernie doesn't
fact
respond
check,
to-
please. Look at the favorability ratings between Trump and Bernie at
He's
every
the most
stage of the
popular,
elections. He always
candidate or
looked.
politician that exists in the United States. And
to this day.
personal attacks don't phase him clearly.
Yeah, obviously.
So
But
I
he
mean,
still
I'm just
would've
saying
won.
that's the main.
I mean,
reason
we
think
literally
he
had
could've.
something
get to the
far
last
worse than
debate.
Russian collusion
Get to
going
the
on against
last
Bernie
debate.
with correct the
Bernie-
record.
Bernie doesn't win in the last debate versus Trump. When you have him and his, I don't want to say socialist, but he has this huge kind of quote unquote
Socialist.
socialist
I mean, he's an avowed.
ideology.
He says
He
he's
is a socialist.
I would just that doesn't win on stage. This is America. Like
I agree.
we hear socialism, and the first thing we go is, "Oh my God, socialism!"
I
This
would
is the
argue
worst
that
thing ever.
Bernie kind of single-handedly changed that.
I don't think that that's true
He didn't
now.
single-handedly
I think that
change
was
it, but he
true
was
in
close.
the Nader years. But I don't think that's true now. I think socialism is a hot fad word that people who don't even know the definition of it like
Okay,
it.
well, that's another podcast. Was Trump crazy like a fox? Do you
These
think?
socks are another
Let me
podcast.
ask you this, because like we talked about the birth certificate. That was an early on idea to
Oh, yeah.
to land grenades, and they responded. They released it because Trump brought it up.
I want to talk about the fact that Hillary Clinton, please fact check this. She was the first one to bring up the issue of Barack Obama's birth certificate. It
You're
was
kidding.
not
No,
Trump.
that is
That's
100%
true?
true.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
remember. I remember
That's
that.
true.
You say it's true. What?
That's true.
She was the original birther.
That's true.
Yeah, she was the original birther.
Wow.
She also alluded to him being possibly assassinated in the last months of the
Because
2008 primaries,
She
which is
played
why she
dirty
wouldn't
politics.
leave. Yeah,
That's why she lost against Obama. Is because
Wouldn't
she
it be
tried to play
horrible?
real dirty.
Well, there
She
was a
tried to
time
play
when
too
Trump
dirty.
She knew the
was
truth.
well. There
Wait.
was a time when Trump was.
You don't think Obama was born in America?
You still don't believe that Barack Obama?
You're a birther.
Get the fuck out.
I don't think
Rachel
he is.
Thomas, we have a birther right here in our midst.
out of here.
He produced the birth certificate.
Get the fuck out of here.
You think it's a
They-
forgery?
They would. No
You
one.
think it's a forgery?
No one would have let him become
she's
president.
nodding right now. Just so you know, she's nodding.
Let her.
Yes, I would like this.
You know how much vetting?
Look up Frank
Everybody shut up,
Marshall
Rachel.
Davis.
Let her. Yeah, let her. defend
Frank
herself.
Marshall Davis.
But first,
Look him
do
up.
we have the salary ID?
Frank Marshall Davis.
Can we ask, like, do you think it matters if he actually had a valid birth certificate or not? Like, in the
It only
long
does
run?
in terms of the Constitution.
Yeah, I think legally she would say.
Like,
it matters.
legally it matters, but do you like? Is it something?
Otherwise,
to be
it doesn't
pursued?
matter at
Is
all.
it something to be pursued in the year 2018?
No.
Okay.
So as someone who's worked in politics, I understand how rough the vetting process is for being a political candidate. I would say that it is impossible for something like that, something that big, as a birth certificate or proof of citizenship in America to just slip through the cracks. Like, no matter where he was born, no matter what happened, if you still don't believe that he was an American citizen, there's a real problem, because that would mean that our whole institution, every single institution, failed. When Obama was elected,
well,
both years.
that's something that you two are going to have to fight
Like,
about in
that's-
the back alley
that
after
would-
this. So we're going to move on to third-party candidates. I call this section "What is Aleppo" with Gary Johnson.
Yeah.
Was that a low blow? Was that like something that like a libertarian
Fucking
should?
Gary Johnson.
Well, I mean, do you think that Gary Johnson, as a libertarian, like, because clearly he doesn't want to get involved in any foreign.
Yeah, he's
You
a
know,
non-interventionalist.
Yeah, so he's not going to know
So
any foreign countries.
he was role-playing non-interventionalism.
Well, do you think that was a low blow by the media?
Charitable.
And he rolled a nat 1, basically.
I mean, do you guys think that that every candidate should know every relevant topic?
Yes.
I think that there's a,
And that's
a
something we
burden of
finally agree on.
expectation.
Can we just clink for that? Can we just?
But
get
do you? I would say it doesn't matter if they do or not,
There we
because
go.
like, look at the anti-vax arguments against Jill Stein, the Aleppo argument against Gary
We're not
Johnson.
even going to talk about
People
that
are gonna.
from
Yeah.
Jill Stein.
No,
'cause
I don't even want to talk about
yeah.
it. But I'm just saying, like, it doesn't really matter what the candidate's position actually is, because as soon as it catches on that there's like a rumor or a gossip or like a hot take.
Is
to
the
smear 'em.
Libertarian Party ever going to pose an actual threat, or
No.
are they just
Not in America.
I
They
think they're
already
probably
did.
a corporate
Trump got
pawn,
elected.
honestly.
Trump
You-
ran as a Republican. He didn't. run
You
as
think
a
He's
he's
libertarian.
You think he's a straight up libertarian?
He's a closet libertarian.
I mean, is
Ooh.
he a closet American libertarian? I could forward that argument.
Can we have her on
Absolutely.
for like a second follow up episode?
Well, no, I mean,
she's
she-
just
she-
a good panelist.
Yeah, she's a great panelist.
React
Clearly,
time.
we're gonna
I-
have her back on.
I'm very happy about this.
But no, she started as a token. Now,
Why? Because
Started
I'm a
as
woman.
a token, now we're
no,
here.
because you're a Trump supporter.
Sorry.
Wow, you
That
said
token.
that. We're
No,
all,
no,
I
she
thought
was-
you're the moderator.
We literally
Be
needed
unbiased, Jack.
an intelligent Trump supporter. You know how hard that is to find?
Show up on time, Jack. Show up
Oh,
on
that's
time.
true. Shut up. Okay, was Jill Stein, Jacob, a useful idiot for Russia.
I struggle to find a way to support that argument, even from a devil's advocate standpoint. I mean, she just has not had substantial interactions with any powerful Russian figure. Yes, she was filmed at a dinner with Putin. There were many other notable world politicians there.
Putin liked her.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that Jill Stein, from an ambassadorial perspective, is probably a very charismatic and likable woman. I don't think that
That's
she
true.
necessarily
I
carried
think.
that energy as a candidate, but I mean, when you listen to her talk and when you see her interact with people, she's very cordial, she's very plain-spoken, so I'm sure that they had great interactions. In terms of her actual connection to Russia, what did Russia need to do to have an impact on this election? I think there were so many chaotic forces at play already in this election that the entire Russian collusion narrative, regardless of any truth or falsehood behind it, is more or less irrelevant.
Who let me ask you this, and you can incorporate this into your answer, Rachel. But who helped Trump more? Hillary's Pied Piper strategy or Russian hacking and misinformation?
Okay, I want to address the last point.
Go on.
Two things. I really wish the Democratic Party would have put up Jill Stein instead of Hillary Clinton. Because
Well, that never would have happened.
that would have had
Whoa.
way more appeal. Well, yeah, because Hillary Clinton bought the whole thing. She had all the
Sure, but
DNC
but-
funds going to
Absolutely.
her bank account.
Yeah.
Jill Stein is not even
Point number
a
two.
Democrat or an independent that's been involved in
No,
Democratic politics.
She was forced Green Party, but she would have run Democrat Party if they would.
Can we all agree money is bad in politics? Because if we get to that point,
Well, clearly you can't because you're supporting Gretchen for
yo, hey, we're not
gubernatorial.
even talking about that. That's
Yeah,
a different
but we could.
episode.
We
Number
could.
But wait,
two.
yeah, let Rachel do her point two. Point two.
All right, point
Number
two.
two.
Go on.
It is my belief that there was no Russian collusion. The only Russian collusion.
Not at all. You don't believe there's any.
No. There was some Russian collusion, and that was between Hillary Clinton and the Russians.
This is true. The uranium
It's
deal
called
is
Uranium
a completely
One.
true thing. This
Sure,
is
but you
completely real.
She
do agree-
abused her position
you
as
do agree-
Secretary of State in order to make deals with the Russians. The Russians were favorable to Hillary Clinton and Hillary Clinton alone.
See,
And this is how the establishment does things. They flip the script. They commit the crimes, and then they blame it on everybody else. Everybody else
Wait,
did
so,
it.
so
literally-
if you can say that, then you can say that the abuse by the Trump administration on the favorable outcomes of their hotels in China, in Saudi Arabia, in Russia.
let's just make it clear: 12 Trump associates and or officials admit to having contacts with Russians during the campaign.
To
and
what
transition.
extent, though?
No, but and then there are 13 Russian nationals indicted.
It
All
it doesn't matter to what extent. The
no,
context
just a second.
is important.
All of the official.
Indictments by a corrupt FBI. First
Well,
of all.
okay, so let's say.
But wait,
Yeah, I'm no fan of the FBI, but every intelligence gathering organization says that they wanted
They're all in
Hillary
the
to
pocket
lose.
of Hillary.
They all
because
wanted
she literally
Hillary to lose.
assassinates people who disagree with her.
I want. So
Talk
I,
about Seth Rich.
So
That's
we're gonna jump to Seth Rich right now.
Are we going to the?
No, let's just jump to Seth Rich because the murder of Seth Rich. He was supposed to be the source of the DNC link. I definitely wanted to talk about him in this podcast because nobody talks
this
about him.
info?
He was the leak.
Well, I mean, dude, it's.
I'm on the same page as Rachel.
Yet unsolved. As yet unsolved.
I'm not up for conspiracy theories. I think that
It's not a conspiracy.
it's-
The
I
man
think
is dead.
Let me just give a little backstory. Seth Rich was murdered late one night.
Nothing stolen.
Nothing stolen. He was apparently according to a lot of theories, he was the source of the DNC leak.
He was a disaffected Bernie's supporter
He was a
who was
disaffected Bernie
upset
supporter.
that Hillary stole the election.
It is as yet unsolved, and the family condemns any conspiracy theories.
So they did hire a private investigator to do a side
They've been
investigation.
Which, I mean, is kind of almost the opposite of the MLK assassination family because they think James Earl Ray, for instance, was completely innocent. Which, honestly, it just seems weird to me that they would completely discount any like conspiracy
he was
theories.
a patsy.
Because it's like if you have an unsolved murder of your family member, I really would not get political with it until
Oh, the
Well, I
FBI
also
killed,
just think
the
how
FBI
did-
killed Martin Luther King.
How did
man.
how did the Seth Rich
CIA.
murder not become a talking point during the election
Well,
cycle?
how did it not
a DNC
still-
employee being murdered at all
It was kept
should have
quiet.
been a talking point?
I
you know
do
what I'm
think
saying?
it should be talked
There's-
about
Yes,
more.
it definitely should.
There's weird things going on behind that. If you want to get conspiratorial or not, I think that he probably did have some role in leaking.
But the thing
information.
is that I'm not going to say, oh, a DNC person got murdered. Hillary must have done something
Hillary
about it.
didn't need to have her hand in the cookie jar
Can
at
I
all,
please
though.
say, though, honestly, it's called Arkansas. There are literally 40-plus murders associated with Hillary Clinton and the Clinton family.
Absolutely
Of people
not.
that got in their way that they wanted to keep quiet.
Well, let's say this.
Fact check it.
Literally because of the amount of
Arkansas.
fake news and like Pizzagate, for instance. Which let's give you a little.
Well,
let's give a little background on Pizzagate
Can we
first
go?
off.
Yeah.
Leaked emails from John Podesta, Hillary's campaign manager, were analyzed by conspiracy theorists who suggested that several U.S. restaurants and the Democratic Party were running a child sex ring
Alex Jones made that shit up.
before being thoroughly debunked.
Don't say his name.
What?
Yeah, he is the one that shall not be named.
Voldemort.
AJ, applesauce, apple juice, whatever you want to
Well,
call it.
I'm just saying
Apple juice.
the amount
made
of
that shit up.
the amount of bullshit stories that were out there. Do you think that stuff that actually could have been going
I
on?
read the WikiLeaks. It had nothing to do with Pizzagate. What it had to do with was the Podestas ordering children.
I also wanted to say, or sorry, am I interrupting?
So
you?
you're
No.
behind. You're still behind Pizzagate.
Zero Hedge? No, not Pizzagate.
Okay.
Pizzagate is a hoax.
Okay.
Pizzagate was put out as a hoax in order to obfuscate the fact that the DC elite and Hollywood
like a psyop.
are all pedos. And there's child trafficking, and that includes all. That's why they want the families to come in from the border.
Okay, so
I
you
am
you
so
you believe
much
in the
enjoying this.
you believe in
this
the
right now.
premise behind Pizzagate.
you think it's funny?
Just not the
You think it's funny that the global elite enjoy killing children because they're Satanists?
I think that there is this conspiracy about a global elite that just has this invisible hand that control everything. But
It doesn't have anything to do with the
There's-
pizza place.
I
by
mean,
the way.
but there's
But
there's a
you
thing.
but you
Is
accept
that-
everything
Well,
else.
can
about
I ask something really
Go
quick?
for it,
Like,
go for it.
so we've got.
Your problem with Pizzagate is
I like-
is the pizza.
I also
Yeah.
want a.
So I actually have a note on my computer just regarding Pizzagate because I loved Pizzagate. I thought this is an issue no one is talking about. We know that massive amounts of child sex abuse does happen. I'm not trying to be.
It does
conspiratorial.
happen, but not
So
necessarily.
Boys Town, the Presidio, the Finders, Jimmy Seville, DynCorp, the entire Catholic Church thing. I mean Sandusky, the English football. We have.
So this is all stuff people can look up, but
We have-
we're not when we're making.
I'm not
specific
asking. Yeah, I'm not asking for this to be
accusations.
fact checked, but I'm just saying there's been a very clear, rising understanding of the extent of child abuse in the world. I do not by any means believe that in the basement of a Washington D.C. pizza place you can go fuck a child, but I think that there's probably how are rich people having sex with children? You know what I mean? We know it happens. How are they doing it? Where is it happening? Why is it happening? And who is
And
covering
that's
it
a
up?
totally other
Well,
issue that we might have
do
to
you know what I
cover.
mean?
in
A
different
rich person
podcasts.
meets a child, and they
No, they're trafficked by people associated with Hillary Clinton, especially the Haitians.
Oh no!
No, okay. So we're gonna move on because
no.
this is way too much to unpack. What was the PP take fake news? Let's just go on to
Piss
that.
tape. We're going to the piss tape.
We're going to the piss tape.
Oh, the piss tape was totally fake.
Okay, everyone agrees this
You
is
don't
piss
think
tape.
it's real?
No,
mind.
I don't. See, this is the thing. Is
You
that
think
I
it's
can-
real?
I want it to be real, and I think if it is, it shouldn't matter.
the thing
Why
is
would
that
it matter
I can-
if this man has a fetish?
I can separate tabloid news from an actual understanding of a person who is running our country.
What's
Oh,
worse?
okay,
so-
What's
and a
worse?
lot of people
Piss
don't
tape
do that.
or
Okay,
semen
Okay, so
stained dress?
it's
You know what
It
I'm
doesn't
saying?
matter.
Everyone
none
has
of that.
sexual
None of that shit
paraphernalia.
matters.
okay.
because-
So
because the
we've
meat-
established that it doesn't matter. WikiLeaks is whistleblower
Wait,
is
I think Rachel had.
no go on.
Rachel's got it.
Yeah, it is the PP tape real?
You mean PP Gate? Because there's no tape.
Yes. No, there could be a tape.
There's no tape.
There's supposed to be a tape.
There's no tape.
Gate and
The
everything.
Steele dossier says that there's a
There's no tape.
Okay, never mind.
at the end of
Has it
shit.
been produced? Because if it was, it'd be running on MSNBC on repeat loop. But the whole thing is that he's a
I'm
known
looking for it actively.
he's a known germaphobe, by the way. So it's very unlikely.
Well, yeah,
fair.
but he could be watching.
Uranus sterile.
Apparently, that's true. It's the cleanest.
But the parts that it touches are not.
So, but are you saying
like
that
playing
he'd be
with a
afraid
dog.
of the vagina and the urethra in general?
No, I mean,
he only wants one at a time.
I see.
Like
So-
one that's
okay,
like quarantine.
So okay.
He's a purist.
hey man.
So moving on to
Y'all are
WikiLeaks.
nasty.
Okay.
Y'all are freaky. Y'all are
Has
nasty.
WikiLeaks become geopolitical terrorism, or
Yes.
is it whistleblower?
No,
Yes.
I think that WikiLeaks started off
Yes.
as a completely legitimate organization, and that there are still people affiliated with WikiLeaks who have very good intentions. However, I think that there has been some form of a takeover or something has occurred within
By Russia.
WikiLeaks because they no longer do pretty good encryption any longer.
Deep state.
You know, something has got
You think
has
the
happened.
deep state took them over?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, all right.
Okay,
here,
no, no,
Can I-
Evan,
let me- let
I
me
want to hear.
address this.
I
Let me-
want to hear.
let me address
do
this
you
argument.
do you disbelieve that there is such a thing as a deep state or shadow government or the possibility
I
thereof?
don't believe in any sort of shadow government. The thing is that
I kind of think
when
the,
you-
the
when-
regular government's bad enough as
when
it
you
is.
when you have something that is under a control of a human being, that human being is still going to have an agenda. And yes, there is an agenda behind WikiLeaks. They started out awesome. They did everything right. They called America out on a lot of its shit that it didn't want to be called out on, and I respect them for that. And I respect the work that they've done. What I don't respect is the fact that there is some type of agenda that's being pushed where it's just, I wouldn't just say just anti-American or just anti-whatever. I would say that there's some kind of anarchism that comes out of what they do. They like to fuck shit up just to fuck shit up, and I don't appreciate that.
Do you
Like,
think?
Are you against that? Though I feel like
no, I am
is-
against that because
Okay.
I think that if you're not helping to fix the problem, then you are still a part of the problem.
Some shit
Because it-
deserves to be fucked up.
No, I don't think so. I think that if you're there to point out a problem, have a solution.
One thing is, it's definitely clear that there was an agenda behind WikiLeaks in 2016. They absolutely did not support Hillary Clinton. If they did directly support Donald Trump or not, is probably up for questioning. But I would say that you have to kind of look at what did Hillary Clinton represent leading up into that election. One thing for sure is absolute draconic punishment of whistleblowers and political prisoners and stuff like that. Just really not even giving them any kind of leeway, any kind of freedom to be protected if they were to come forward with information that would, unfavorably reflect on a government agency or a large semi-private organization, for example.
And what's our current administration doing?
Definitely not put together enough or with people heading organizations that have the best interests of those organizations in mind to actually do a good job of prosecuting whistleblowers. If they would want to or not is another question. I don't think that I'm saying Trump has loftier goals in that regard, but he certainly hasn't shown himself to be
But the
someone who
thing
wants
is
to
that
punish
so
a
wait.
he has
whistleblower.
no goal. This is the
No,
point
no,
I keep
before-
coming back to. Is
Not
he has
fascist
no
enough.
goals.
What's
Not fascist enough.
what's your impression of WikiLeaks, Rachel?
I think WikiLeaks is Julian Assange. He's a man. He's a hacker. He can hack into damn near anything, and he's done it over and over and over again.
You don't
He's-
think he's in the employ of the Russian Federation now?
Oh, hell no. I'm sorry. Once again, I come back to this very basic
Again, something
precept
we can
and
agree on.
principle that the Russians wanted Hillary to get elected. Hillary was going to be their soft target. I mean, honestly, she did the Russian reset. Remember the little button where she went over with Mr. Putin? They were good friends. I mean, honestly, I don't think that they expected Trump to get elected. They knew Trump was going to play hardball. They knew he was going to have America first and not Russia first. And she had Russia first in mind because they were paying her dividends.
That's not true.
Absolutely true.
She
and
did
you
not
can
have
look it up.
Russia first
Can-
at all.
Okay, so let's talk real quick about the debates because I just watched some of them. I mean, they had totally different styles. But like, I mean, I wrote down some of these things. You'd be in jail if like
True.
if I were if I had been president. I'll release my taxes when you release your you release the emails.
30,000.
Like an impossible thing to meet.
Not impossible.
Fighting. Well, no, it was impossible because they were deleted.
Oh, she destroyed him. That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Smashed
So
with hammers and bleach.
It's funny that you talk about
fighting
the
ISIS.
server-
You've been fighting ISIS your entire adult life. There's totally different styles, but I really do think that Trump's like dumb mic drop moments were more effective than.
I mean,
you-
he did a great
But
job
it-
being a
you'd think-
spectacle.
It's
Yeah.
funny that he's talking. He talked about all that stuff, and he's doing the same shit that she did. Like,
Not true.
Like the server stuff. Like they were like, you have this illegal server, which wasn't illegal. And
It
now
was
they're
illegal.
and now
I
they're
think it
having
actually
this.
was
No,
illegal.
but they have the same server now. They use the same server that
They do
she
not.
did. No,
No.
they currently do. It's a fact.
But
NPR that
I just
want to
bring it back to is Trump like a genius
not
in this
find
sense?
that.
Because it's like he had a
He's
Rust
a
Belt.
fucking sociopath.
No,
and
he
that's
had a
it.
Rust Belt strategy that worked out for him. He had shock value that was getting play, and he had like
I mean, he turned Macomb County.
was he just a brilliant campaigner? Is
No,
that
he
something we'd
wasn't.
have to
He
deal with?
was not. What he
Yes.
did was he looked at his team looked at all of the people disenfranchised by stuff that Republican values hinge on. They looked at coal. Everybody was like, "Oh yeah, we want coal to come back," even though. First of all, coal is never going to come back. But
The coal miners sure did, who are all out of jobs. And
I
you know
know,
what? Hillary
But yeah, no,
Clinton-
it was. But
Hillary
that's the thing. It
Clinton
wasn't
said,
right, but it was smart.
But it's not just an economic fact. It's a scarcity fact that coal and the efficiency
It's
of
not
mining coal.
scarce.
Well, it's not. It doesn't need to be scarce. The efficiency of mining coal.
You mean of paying slave wages to people overseas?
the amount of energy you have to put into mine coal is not enough. Is not worth it to get the energy
That's not
out
true.
of it. That is true.
It has to do
Google
with
that shit.
regulations. No, it has to do with regulations.
it's not
and
about
Hillary Clinton
regulations.
said, "We're going to put the coal miners out of business, baby."
That's
she
out of
told
context.
Pennsylvania that.
That's out of context.
It's not out of
because-
context.
Because her plan was to.
That was playing to her base.
No, that was her plan was to introduce a
Environmentalists.
stimulus bill. So, and what is wrong with environmentalism? First of all, because
Nothing except for you're putting coal miners out of business, which is
yeah,
what she
because
bragged
coal
about.
mining is is an outdated job.
I mean, I have to agree
It
with
is
him.
not. It,
Yeah,
it's- it
coal
produces
mining is-
energy, and it's actually some of the cleanest burning energy that exists.
No, it is not. That is an absolute.
Let's hear it
falsehood.
from Jacob real quick because he wanted to
Physics.
get in there.
Well, no, I mean, I would
It's
just
not
say
physics. That's first of all. I think that's
How-
atmospheric
Coal is
science.
just physics. I
Well,
mean,
There's no clean coal.
Can you
there's
say-
There is no such thing as
Yeah.
clean
There's no
coal.
scrubbers. I mean, there's no clean coal at all, right?
do you think that there is a place for a deregulation-focused administration to have a hand in possibly impacting the environment?
I don't think so. I think as long as they do it clean, then I think that it's responsible and that it is for the environment.
well, okay. So I've got two other points. First off, the electoral college should be eliminated. What are
No,
Yes.
Yes.
it's in the Constitution. Absolutely not.
I
But-
say no
So
as
I
well.
think get rid of superdelegates and trade off caucuses as the bargaining chip.
But don't you-
because
don't you-
both are bad.
Okay, but don't you think that without the electoral college, that we basically have, we have certain areas that are just disenfranchised?
It's mob rule if we don't have the electoral college.
No,
It's just,
that's not
it's just
true.
rule of
That's
the
not
cities.
true.
It's rule of the cities. isn't
That's
it?
more so a parliamentarian system. that
Let's hear
can
from,
be
from
reflective
Jordan
of,
because
Yeah.
It's an easy concept.
why?
The more people voted for somebody than somebody
okay,
else.
so don't you
That's the
think?
difference between a democracy and a republic.
Well, no, okay, but more people voted for somebody, but don't you think that people that live in rural areas have different concerns than the people in the cities?
does it really matter?
It does because
Yeah,
they have
fuck
different
them.
natural resources. They have literally different resources. On them.
No, because you're going. You're
Just
going.
genocide all those people because they don't matter.
You're going.
I mean, that could be the end.
no, but
end
you're going
result.
into something different because you're taking out of context the fact that.
Have we all seen the Hunger Games? Because I think that's
But
essentially
no,
what
no,
it is.
and see that's the thing is you can't equivocate.
exactly.
You can't equivocate a movie.
I've been putting weapons by all of your chairs, and
Jack. You cannot equivocate a movie.
I'm gonna live.
but I'm
To-
saying the
to-
central
to
city had
political
all
theory.
the political power. It was what caused the Civil War at the time.
But you cannot equivocate the Hunger Games
That
to
is slavery,
political
but-
theory. Like you just can't do that. Like that's
How about Plato's Republic? There was a historical precedent for why
Nah.
we have an electoral
let's just
college.
like not go into that right now. 'cause
okay,
that's,
well, since
should
we're
read it. It's
running
good.
short
I
on
have
time,
read it, and I will definitely say that.
since we're running
the
short
way you
on
take it is-
time, we're going to do predictions, but this is going to be a separate section. 2020. Who do you guys think is going to run?
Can she go first, and then I'll go last?
Can I just set the order?
Do you want to go first?
Don't
yeah, so
disrupt
yeah,
the
I'll
order.
go first. I think the algorithm will run. I think
This is
that's-
separate from the predictions.
Yeah,
by
no,
the
no.
way.
This is just. I literally think the
Is that
Democratic.
our AI overlord?
Yeah, it doesn't even need to be. I mean, we'll have a human face behind it, but looking at the way, like, if David Brock style campaign managers are the way forward for the Democratic Party, we're going to have a focus tested computer code driven candidate who exists not as like a series of beliefs held by an actual person, but as like the best option in each slot for, you know, the platform to be made. And it'll just be, you know, what's the most centrist, the most consumable non-person that
Okay.
will, you know,
All right.
I don't
support the
want
corporation.
to laugh at you. You're
We're-
so depressing, man.
But that
you
is it.
depress the shit out of
That
me,
is
man.
what we will get, is like a gray beige like entity.
You think the algorithms you think it's you think they're gonna win.
No, I don't even know that the elections matter.
Jack, you need to buy me mozzarella sticks out of this. This is sad.
We made the perfect algorithm to defeat Trump, and Trump still fucking wins.
I don't know.
That's
Was
depressing.
No one made an algorithm to defeat Trump.
Rachel,
There's no
Rachel,
algorithm.
just a second. Rachel, who's gonna run on the Democratic side?
So of all the quantum computing of all the AI supercomputers all come to the inevitable conclusion that Trump would win because he is the populist candidate and he is what the people fucking want because
Sure.
they want jobs
But
and they
who's-
want no taxes and
who's-
it's so easy.
If you
But
were the
thing
Democratic
is-
superdelegates, all of them, who would you choose?
I don't know, probably Jill Stein, but here's the thing.
I love it. I love it.
She's not a Democrat.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, okay?
Neither was Bernie.
From what I
It's true.
understand, Trump is not going to run again if things are going well. So that's my prediction for 2020, that he's not going to run.
Do you have any idea?
Because
who would-
Brown
Do you
man's-
think it's going to be Mike Pence?
Would
And would you
represent-
vote for? And would you vote for Mike
It's
Pence?
going to be Pence and the lady who's in the UN, whose name escapes me at the
No.
moment.
Are you gonna vote for Mike?
I don't know. I think he's also a pushover like Kasich, and so therefore I don't like
Ooh,
him. And I
that's a-
really wish that.
That's a really interesting characterization.
I don't like the reason
I
you're
like
not
that.
voting for him, but I like that
well,
you're not voting
I also
for
like
him.
that his VP possible is also like a weird warmonger too, and I don't care for that at all. So honestly, like I wish Ron Paul could just like live to 100 because then I wish he would run.
Do you not like Rand?
I kind of like Rand. I think there's some things that he says that don't make any fucking sense.
It's
and
the sweater
sometimes it
vest.
pisses
That's
me
the
off.
Trump
I
supporter.
just don't like
It's,
it.
it's the sweater vest, honestly.
He's not his dad. Let's just say that.
It's true.
It's honestly the sweater vest.
I mean,
though.
I
He has
I had
inverse
problems with his
charisma.
dad too,
I
but
heart Ron.
but way fewer than I have with Rand. Evan, well, who do you want to run?
I
against
actually
Trump?
don't. I actually don't know. The thing is, the big thing for me is that people don't vote. That's the only problem that I have is that if people voted, we might actually have a more representative democracy than we do. But people don't vote, and honestly, I don't really care who the Republican or the Democratic like party person is going to be because I actually
You don't have a horse to race right now for
I
2020?
would like to
What
see.
about like
I would
Tulsi?
like to see multiple parties come out and be like, listen, we're from this state, this area, and we're from this party, and we're gonna have this person elected because
Who's
that's
the guy that I shared that was UBI? Yang?
Yeah, Andrew Yang.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Do
but
you like Yang?
not really. But the
Tulsi
thing is,
Gabbard, Cory
the
Booker.
thing is,
Come on, there's so
Kamala
many
Harris.
options right now.
yeah,
The thing
there's like
is-
a lot of Democratic potential.
the thing is that I would
I'm not
Cory
saying
Booker.
they're
because
yeah,
we're
I'm not saying
having
they're
so
good.
many,
No.
because we're dealing with this in a grassroots level. I would like to see our Congress represented almost like a parliamentarian system.
You
You know,
can't pretend to not have said represented.
representative.
Okay, well, if you don't have a name, then
I'm not gonna say any names because I just don't. I don't know.
I'm like Joe McCarthy. I
have
just
a-
want you to name names.
I have
That's
a
all it is.
weird thing.
Okay,
I've got a weird thing. And
Jordan-
you have weird boots and
Jordan,
socks,
do
so
you
which you
have-
need to
yeah,
deal
yeah,
with, man.
I think that Bernie's gonna run again and he's gonna win.
He's too old.
Absolutely
I want
not.
to see it
Yeah,
happen.
no, you guys can shit on me all
and
you
you
want.
can,
I
and you
wanna
can
see it
cry
happen.
yourself to sleep
No,
knowing
no.
that that's not going to happen, Jack.
I will crouch in the porta potty for everybody
Now-
to shit on me
Please.
on that opinion.
Now-
you
anyway,
can cry
Jack,
your
Jack,
damn self to
if,
sleep.
If
Okay.
he doesn't, who would you see heading up?
I think Yang actually is a pretty good option.
See, now you don't think he's too
Who
corporate minded?
are you? Who are
Or
you,
there just
Jack?
isn't enough data
Why-
out there yet.
Why? You have your boots, you have your socks, and then you have Yang.
You got
It's
your
just
lederhosen.
wow.
And then I got Yang.
And then you got Yang, and it's just like, wow.
I've got Yang
Jack.
too.
There's plenty of time till election day.
That's true.
There is.
Okay, so
Which I encourage everyone to
in
vote.
honor of the late John McLaughlin, who died in in 2016, and I loved. He had really the best show. Everybody would shout at each other, and everybody would be having amazing points. Honestly, he had one of the best panels, but you couldn't hear any of them because they were all shouting.
Can we also talk about the fact that Gwen Ifill died in 2016?
No.
Are you serious? Are you serious? Gwen Ifill from NPR, from PBS.
Oh, Gwen Ifill. I liked Gwen Ifill.
Gwen Ifill was great.
She was on the news. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If that brings you two together,
Dude,
yeah, we can talk about.
She is a
fucking
Trump
Gwen
There's
supporter.
Ifill.
been like 4 things that they've come across.
And she
for
gave
life.
out the mad respect to Gwen Ifill because she deserved that shit. Because she was an unmarried woman who went through the journalistic the rigors of journalism and came out on the.
How about
other
John
side.
McLaughlin? He was an unmarried man.
Fuck John McLaughlin, man. Gwen Ifill came out there.
No, okay,
Listen,
so-
if you grew up on public television, you would know. Who
Did she
Gwen
die
Ifill-
in 2016
She
as well?
inspired me.
She did. Yo,
Or did she
hey,
die after?
I'll give her the fist pump because she at
Yeah.
least knows who Gwen Ifill is. Man.
Yeah, no, I don't.
She had
I'm
that
sure.
respect.
You gotta watch more PBS, bro.
Hey.
It's true. It's true.
News hour.
The news hour.
Just-
Let's go.
just-
right after Jeopardy.
Just wait till your boy Donald Trump be defunded.
The dangerous energy forming
Drama.
between these two opponents.
See, we have
As far as I
weird
can tell, it's still going.
So wait, in honor of Gwen Ifill, sure, and John McLaughlin, but I'm stealing his outro segment for this show, and we'll see if we keep up on it. But I like it. We're gonna be doing predictions. So we're gonna go around the table and get predictions from everybody. Rachel, we'll start with you.
Well, I thought we did predictions though.
I mean, it's very similar to our last segment.
It's
I have
exactly.
to-
I thought we did- I thought we
it's
just did
exactly the same. But
So we're just doing a segment twice.
Okay, I
no.
This
This
is
one's
all gonna be edited
This one's
out.
supposed to
all
be.
of it's gonna be edited.
Yeah,
out.
but maybe the last segment will be
I
edited out.
think we're gonna go to Mars before the end of the Trump administration.
Bam.
Oh my god.
Bam. See,
Love
that's
it.
great.
I like that.
Jacob.
I think we will see. I'm hoping that a family member of Pence comes out as trans before 2020. That's
Love
my,
it.
That's
We're
my
just
prediction.
picking cards from a hat on this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that probably Trump's gonna either get impeached or be in jail by 2020. What I would say though is that I don't. This is interesting. Is
By
that
the way,
ev-
the last segment was just choosing who's going to run. It was not
Okay.
the same as this.
It's the same.
Well, the thing
No,
is,
these
that
are way better
the
already.
thing is that I cannot, I can't see into the future. And
No,
while I
but
would say,
no, but these are predictions.
yeah.
You can
So
say anything.
what I would say is my prediction is that
He's going to be in jail.
oh man, Trump is going to be impeached. He might go to jail.
Okay, cool. That's a good prediction. You think? Okay, so Gabe's got one. Our
My
audio
prediction
engineer.
is Trump will run and win next
Okay.
year.
Wait, you said Trump will run and win?
So
Yo.
Not saying I want him to.
even though I hate that prediction. No, even though I hate that prediction, let's
Jack, you owe me mozzarella
No,
sticks.
I've got a prediction too. I'm gonna get you one.
One mozzarella
just a
stick.
single one. It'll
We'll
have
split it.
and a thimble of marinara. But before I do my prediction and say bye, as John McLaughlin used to, let's give a little round of applause, panelists, to our audio engineer, Gabriel Banis,
Thank you.
and the guy who served us drinks, Jordan Glass.
Oh man, he made some fantastic old fashions, man.
My prediction is Donald Trump is going to replace Mike Pence with Jesse the Body Ventura.
Would love that.
legalize weed and return to the Reform Party hours before the Republican National
Yes,
Convention.
yes.
No one from the Republican
Only you would say some shit like that.
no one from the Republican leadership will disavow him. Thank you very much and bye-bye.
Always